No. Focus. There we go. Tuesday, October 18th, not the October 28th as it says up there. Let's see, we'll go through more Greek mythology. Coat drive for house points ends tomorrow. Notebook is also due tomorrow. We're going to wear orange tomorrow for the anti-bullying. And then the Globies won the Charger Challenge and Sadness ensued. There. Make sure you've downloaded these. They're from my website. I've already given you that information, but just to make sure. And then we got into our bellworky stuff for today. We got a chance to go through there and plug those into the correct spots, which we'll come back to. Did we get to see? Yeah, we talked about this yesterday?
The bell rang as soon as we started.
This part of it?
Yes.
So we didn't talk about the religion-y bits?
No.
We didn't think so. All right. So with the religion-y bits, it means, by the word mythology, it means the fact that this was a religion. It was as much as Christians would pray to Jesus, and you have the Muslims or Jews and they pray to. The Greeks prayed to these as gods, which is why they're called gods. The word mythology means religion. Does anyone pray to these gods today? No. Anyone that prays and worships these gods today wears a really tight white coat and lives in a padded room. They're now out running around in society and stuff like that. That means they're crazy. So because of that, it was a religion, but is not a current religion. Then why are we still studying it? Because it shows up in more of anything else we do than anything else I teach. This and grammar and learning to follow directions are probably the three biggest things you're going to take from my room and use from here on out. The other stuff is good for you, you'll just probably end up forgetting it. This is the stuff you'll end up remembering. Also, this is the unit where most kids end up losing B points. And the reason they lose B points is because for a lot of kids, it's the first time they get excited about school. Because the way I do Greek mythology is different than how most everyone else does almost anything. And so it gets kids all excited and they start getting all talky and yelly and I have to be all mean to them. So I appreciate your excitement, but do your best to try and tamp it down so I don't have to yell at you. Also, another one of the ways I do this is there's a lot of me telling you guys stories. As I go through and do it, there's a lot of different versions. If you guys have done Greek mythology in the past, you're going to know some of these stories, but this version I do will be different than the version you know, which means that I don't have one written form for you to read. A lot of it is just the verbal one I tell you, which is great because it means a lot less reading and homework for you. It's bad if you miss class. If you miss class, you have to watch the video. It is the only way for you to catch up on what happened. So anytime you miss class, make sure you watch the videos. Now, we're going to go through and I'm going to have you adjust and change and move things so we can sort of see where they're supposed to go. For each one of these, I'm going to have you vote and show your hand on where you think it's supposed to go. And then I have a little blurby of a story that'll go with it and sort of help you connect it to Greek mythology and the learning and stuff like that. The first one, chaos. I'm going to have you raise your hand if you say chaos goes in the God spot. Places, things, is it just other stuff? Chaos can go and actually, to start off with, a whole bunch of different areas. It goes in multiple ones. All right. I mentioned that Greek mythology was a religion. The way that the religion worked for them is they believed before we had humans, we had the gods. Before we had the gods, we had the earth and the sky. Before we had the earth and the sky, there was this thing called chaos. Chaos was a swirling ball of nothing. There was no stars, there was no planets, there was no people, there were no chipmunks. It was just swirling, and that was it. One day, chaos got bored, because you can't be a swirling ball of nothing forever. It's kind of hard to imagine a swirling ball of nothing, so instead, imagine pudding. Imagine a giant swirling ball of pudding. Chocolate pudding, because it's the most delicious. And so you have a swirling ball of chocolate pudding, and eventually the pudding splits into two different things. It splits into the earth and the sky. And because chaos forms the earth and the sky, it's a place. Because chaos was a swirling ball of nothing, it's other stuff. But because we get all the things in the world from what it eventually creates, it's a thing. We also get all the gods from chaos, so chaos can go in any of the spots. Wherever you put it, you're correct. That was the joy of that first one. So chaos was everything at once. Then, let's go to Chronos. And with Chronos, is it a god, a place, a thing, and other stuff? Ooh, Chronos was up here behind Joan Jett. This is Kronos. Use a little poster. He's the guy who looks like he's winning a cheerleading miniskirt while he's trying to go golfing. That would be Kronos. He was a god. He was one of the original Titans. And the thing he's holding in his hand is a thing called a scythe. If you don't know what a scythe is, if you've ever seen the Grim Reaper, it's the big stick which has the big pointy blade that comes off of it. That was a weapon that he used to attack and try to kill his father because Greeks had issues. And so he attacked and tried to kill his pappy with it, which up there he's using it to go golfing with little people because it was fun. The gods would just show like, I'm going to go kill some people. They can go through there and attack them. So that's Kronos holding his scythe. Hades. Is Hades a god? Place? Thing? Other stuff? Hades is actually two. Hades is both a god and a place. I just put it for gods up there. Hades, Joan Jett's in a good spot today. Also, up there, this is Hades. He is the tall, dark fellow wearing the cloak and looking all grumpy. If you've seen a lot of the movies or TV shows or books about Greek mythology, they'll show Hades as being evil. Hades was not evil. He was not a bad person at all. What Hades was grumpy. Hades was the introvert that didn't want to talk to people. He wanted to be left alone, sitting in the back of the room, listening to music, playing video games, not having to interact with anybody. The problem is, people kept talking to him, and it made him lash out in grumpy ways. So if you see like the stuff where it has him like trying to overtake Zeus and take over Mount Olympus, nope, that was not his personality at all. He did not want that on any level. He wanted to just sit in the back, be quiet, be grumpy, not deal with people, and that made his life much better. Problem is, he was not very creative. So Hades got his own kingdom, which was down underground, which were all the dead people were. It was his choice. He wasn't stuck down there. He didn't like talking to people. So when he got his area to control, he's like, well, it has the least amount of people. They're like, well, there's no one under the ground. He's like, mine! And he went down there and took it over. He's like, it's perfect. There's no one down here to bother me. And it was great. And people go, well, what are you going to call this place? And he goes, I'm going to call it Hades. They're like, that's your name. He's like, yeah. They're like, so you're going to call it Hades? Like, okay. And they just backed up and just left him there. So basically his name is Hades H. Hades, and he lives on Hades Street, Illinois, in Hades, America. And so Hades, he was just not creative. So they just called the place where he lived Hades. Herbert?
I have a question. I thought, like, after they overthrew Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, after they overthrew Kronos, they drew sticks and then...
Ooh, how am I going to answer this?
Stuck. You explain that?
We'll get to that. Yeah.
He said
Don't worry. That one's
yesterday
coming
that
up.
he's
I know, but you can't help it when the questions pop up. Yeah, we're going to get to that one. I know. The problem is, a lot of times, that the learning you guys have gotten is coming from the movies and the books, which they take a creative interpretation. It's sort of like when you read the Harry Potter book, and then you watch the Harry Potter movie, and you're like, well, it's kind of the same, but a lot of things are different. It's the same thing. They took a lot of the stuff and used the stuff from Greek mythology, and then kind of changed it from actual Greek mythology. What I'm doing is taking you guys back to the really real stuff. Underworld. God. Place.
There we go.
Thing. Other stuff. You're right. It's a place. It's a nickname for Hades. The reason being, the Greeks were very superstitious. Have you heard of Bloody Mary?
Yeah.
When you go into the bathroom and you turn the light off, and you go, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, and then she like appears. Well, of course it's not real, it's make-believe. But the Greeks believed the same thing happened with Hades. He was sort of like Beetlejuice. If you said his name, he would appear. And so let's say, in my enthusiastic teaching of swinging a stick around, I whack, hit River in the head, she's like, ah, and falls down dead. They're like, oh no, River's dead. Well, in the Greeks, they believed that when you die, everyone goes down to Hades. It was not heaven and hell. It was not good and bad. It was everyone, when you're dead, you go down there. Whether you were Mother Teresa saving puppies, or whether you were Hitler not saving puppies, everyone goes to the underworld. Down there, Mother Teresa and Hitler, high five. They both get down there having a good time. So, River's now dead, and she goes down to Hades. And Canady shows up, and she's like, what happened to River? I thought she was in class today. I'm like, oh no, she's dead. She's like, oh, is she in Hades? The Greeks believed if you said the name of the place, the god might show up instead. Be like, Hades, did you say my name? And you're like, no, I was talking about the place. He's like, you said Hades. Like, well, not you, but the other he. And him being the grumpy one he is, he's like, oh, I'm not going back empty-handed. And he grabbed Kennedy. I was like, no! Her little feet were kicking in the air, and then down she goes. To prevent that from happening, the Greeks came up with a name for this place where he lived. They were not creative either. So what do they call the place where he lived?
Underworld.
They called it that because
They're not
It's
under the
yeah,
world.
they're like, well, where is it? It's under. Under what? The world. Nailed it! And so they just called it the underworld because that's where it was. So they weren't really pushing themselves on that way.
Yeah.
Titans. Gods. Places.
Oh wait.
Things.
Oh.
Other
I
stuff.
don't know.
Titans are the same thing as gods.
Yeah.
It's like saying, are you a person or are you a human? That's the same thing. It's the same thing with gods and titans. They're the same thing. A titan is just another name for a god. If you look around my room with all the big posters, those big posters up there, those are all titans. The ones over there, those are all titans. The ones here, those are titans. But now if you look at them, those are all gods. Those are also gods. Those are gods. Just like look over there, those are people, and those are humans. It's all the same. A titan was just a really big creature that could go around and smash us and live forever. A god was someone we prayed to, so they didn't try and kill us because they were really big and could smash us. So titans, gods, same thing. Mercurial. God, place, thing,
Oh wait, that's putting down.
other stuff, definitely a thing, except for the part where it's other stuff. Mercurial is other stuff. There's two different things we can study. There's Greeks and Romans. We're doing the Greek version. The Romans have the exact same gods, they just have different names for them. Much like we have English and Spanish, you have hello and you have hola, both mean the same thing. It was the same for Greeks and Romans. Behind O'Reilly, I have this little yellow poster. It has a list of all the Greek names, and then next to it's all the Roman names. There was just two names for all of these different gods. You had Zeus, or you could call him Jupiter. You had Hera, or you could call her Juno. It just depends on which country you were in. Romans came later, changed some of the names. Hermes, this fellow over here in the orange and the yellow, his Roman name was Mercury, just like the planet. And he moved really, really, really quickly. That was his sort of superpower, was to be all speedy. Well, mercurial means to do something super quickly, or to change super quickly. As an example, if you have ever taken Mentos and Diet Coke and gone kabloopity, as soon as the Mento hits the Diet Coke, it goes and explodes. That's mercurial. That is a fast change. If you've ever taken water and put it in the freezer, that's not mercurial. It takes a long time. You keep going, checking, nope, still water. Nope, still water. Nope, still water. It takes forever. That's not mercurial. Mercurial means to change quickly from one form to another. It's a sciencey word that comes from the god of changing quickly. Olympians. Gods, places, things, other stuff.
Oh wait, it's God.
It definitely isn't. Olympians are gods. Olympians is a name for a certain type of titan. There were 12 Olympians at any one time. 12 gods who were all super special and got to hang out in this place called Mount Olympus. In my room, the final 12 Olympians are the ones on the big posters. There's 6 over there, and there's 6 over there. There's some of the positions changed, like some of the gods lost their thrones, gained their thrones, stuff like that. These are the main 12, are the big ones that are up there. Over here are some other random ones. Some of those are Olympians, some of those are non-Olympians. All the ones over here, this poster, some are Olympians, some not Olympians. It just sort of depended as the years went by. All Olympians are Titans. Not all Titans are Olympians. Oh, Mr. Brovicast, that confuses me. Allow me to make a connection. You know what a hero is.
Yeah.
You know what a 7th grader is.
Mm-hmm.
Every hero has to be a 7th grader, correct? Is every 7th grader a hero?
No.
Same idea. So every Olympian has to be a Titan, but not every Titan is an Olympian. Is that sort of that same idea? And so the Olympians were just the 12 chosen special ones. just like you guys are the special chosen 7th graders. Atlas. God, place,
Yeah.
thing, other stuff.
Atlas is a
Giving up like Canady. And Atlas qualifies as 2 things. Started off as a god, and also became a thing.
Really?
I'm not kidding you. You guys have probably seen a picture of, not a picture because he didn't exist, but paintings of Atlas or drawings of him. He was the god that was holding the planet on his back, or the earth. He looks like that whole posy thing. He's holding it up there. That's Atlas. He's actually not holding the earth on his back. That would be impossible, because if you're holding the earth on your back, what are you standing on?
Nothing.
Gravity.
So what he's actually holding in Greek mythology, which is the story we'll get to next week, is he's actually holding the sky on his back, because he was keeping the sky from falling down and crushing everyone, because the sky actually had weight to it. But the reason they don't show that in the pictures is, how do you show someone holding up the sky? It just looks like you're like Superman. So instead, they drew a globe on his back because it made it look a little bit different. Plus, the Greeks believed the world was not round. They thought the world was flat. So they never would have shown him holding a circle on his back, because it wouldn't have made any sense to them anyway. He would have been holding like a giant dinner plate. And he was standing on top of the tallest mountain, holding the sky so it wouldn't fall down and crush everybody. Well, years later, we come up with a book. And this book is full of something that we name after Atlas, because he can see the entire world from this mountain. You guys know what the Atlas is full of?
Information.
The world.
Maps of the world.
Oh.
So an atlas is a map of the world. And they named it an atlas because they figured it was named after the guy who could stand on top of the biggest mountain and see the whole world. So when you have this book, you can see the whole world. Hence it's called an atlas.
So you can see learning.
I have to.
Sticks. S-T-Y-X, not the things you pick up on the ground before you mow.
Thanks.
Is it a god, place, thing, other stuff? Much like many of the things in Greek mythology, it qualifies as more than one. Styx begins as a god and then becomes a place.
Aw, man.
Technically, it could qualify as a thing and other stuff, which I'll explain. Styx was a girl,
Oh.
and she was a god. And she was this incredible, great fighter. The problem was, she had a horrible personality. She was mean and nasty and insulted everybody, didn't get along with others at all, but she was very loyal to Zeus. Zeus gets into a fight with his father and tries to kill his father off, as you do. And he asks Styx to help him fight. Styx helps him fight, helps him win this war, and refuses to ever switch sides or ever go and help anyone else. She stays loyal to him the entire time. At the end, Zeus is so impressed by Styx, he goes, you know what? I will grant you one wish, your choice, anything you want. What would you like to have? She goes, you know what I'd like? I would like to become a river. He goes, no, really? But what would you like? She goes, no, I want to become a river. He's like a splash splash? He's like, yep, like a splash splash. He's like, oh, no, okay, turn you into a river. And so Zeus does the whole slappy, slappy, poof, poof, and she turns into a river. Problem is, when she becomes a river, she's incredibly poisonous, because her personality was so awful and her personality was so poisonous, the water she becomes is poisonous. So when it's on Earth, any human that touched this river died. Zeus goes, eee, that's not good. So you can't just leave a river like that sitting out. It's like, oh, here's some uranium. Throw it in that little school play yard. So instead, he takes this river and goes down to the underworld, where there's no living people around anyway, and puts this river down there. He goes, I'm going to make this river the separator between the above ground world and the underworld, because no living being can touch it. It keeps people from getting into where Hades is. Hades is excited. He's like, wait a minute. That river is going to prevent people from talking to me? Boom! Bring it! So Hades is excited. He says, leave that river down there, and that becomes the separator between the world and the underworld. In that picture up here behind, you see Derek standing, is you see Hades right there, and then that little river that's next to him is going to be the river Styx. And that's how she became a place, because of her poisonous personality. Liam?
Isn't that where the whole story of Achilles' heel?
It is another story that we'll get to also. To the next.
Percy Jackson
press a button to get to the underwater?
Yes.
Whoa.
I know, it's like all this stuff keeps popping up.
I knew that.
Scythe. Scythe, is it a person? Not person. God, place, thing, other stuff. Scythe.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about it a moment ago. What did we say?
Did I put that? Wait,
Nah.
wait.
This-
It's Cronus' thing.
It is a thing. It was the stick Kronos used to chop kids down and keep sitting and losing points every time he has to say their name. It's the stick that is up there that Kronos uses that has the big pointy blade that comes off it. He used to do the attacky choppy thing. That is Kronos' scythe. So it was a farming tool that they used to cut down wheat. He also uses it to cut down his dad. Everyone needs a hobby. Well, he had good reason. His father kept putting his other kids in burying them underground alive. So, I mean, it was kind of justified.
What's the one that ate his child?
But
Zeus bury your children.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
Next up,
That's
Gaea. G-A-E-A. God, place, thing,
Wait.
other stuff. Gaea qualifies as more than one. Gaea is another name for Mother Earth. And because of that, she is both a god. You could talk to her and have conversations. She's also a place because it's Gaea. You could jump on her, like, giggle, giggle, giggle every time you jump on her. But it was also someone that you could talk to. When Chaos split to form the first two beings, he formed Gaea and her husband. Do you know who her husband was?
Zeus.
Not Zeus, that would be her grandson.
Kronos.
What?
Not Kronos, that would be her son's son.
Uranium.
Is correct.
Oh my god.
Uranus
Go, John.
is going to be her husband, who makes him also a god and a place, because he was Father Sky. So he was both a god you could talk to and attack and kill, and a place. It was a place that you could go and visit. Also, they become the best 7th grade couple to ever exist. The reason being, well, their names in Greek are Gaea and Uranus. But as a 7th grader, that's not how you pronounce it, because you guys prefer to giggle. So how are you guys going to pronounce it?
Uranus.
Gaea and Uranus. And you're like, it's Gaea and Uranus. Giggle, giggle, giggle. And so I've just sort of learned to accept it over time, that in Greek it was pronounced Gaea, but that's the way things are.
We're so.
And her husband, Uranus. Nike. With Nike.
Shoot.
God, place,
Oh.
thing,
It's also.
other stuff. Nike actually was a god.
Really?
Yes.
She was one of only 2 gods who had wings. One, she was a god, and she was a she. And the other one was Aphrodite's son, who is the one over here in pink, the one that's over there saying, like, you're this tall. We know him, well, in Greek, his name was Eros, E-R-O-S, but we know him by his Roman name, because we put him on cards in February. Do you know his Roman name? Cupid.
Oh.
Cupid, or Eros in Greek, was the only other god to have wings. Nike was the god of victory. She hung out with Athena, the girl that was on the brown one over there, and anytime that you wanted to win at something, you would pray to Nike. Years go by, 1970 happens, and there's a shoe company that wants to create new brand of shoes, and they say, if you wear our shoes, you will be victorious in everything you do. This shoe company is
Nike.
And remind me tomorrow, we're going to tell you how the swoosh came about. Because that swoosh is connected to Greek mythology. Wear orange tomorrow. Notebook due tomorrow.